you join me back after a little break, trying to diagnose why this isn't starting. Earlier on, we checked compression across all 4 cylinders and spark across all 4 cylinders, during which we found out cylinder 2 had a broken spark plug, cylinder 1 has poor compression, so just under the threshold of what they call poor. The rest were okay, and good. I am at some point soon just going to throw a little bit of oil in these cylinders and see how they get on. But while I testing that, I actually disconnected the fuel pump, so that I can depressurize the system in advance of this next test, which is testing fuel pressure. For that, I have this, which is a fuel pressure gauge thing. It's a screw fitting into a T with a hose and hose clamp on this end, another hose clamp to go across, which should allow me to disconnect here. It'll piss a little fuel because it might still have some pressure in it, but then I can put that end on here, clamp that down, this end on there, clamp that down with this, and then hopefully reconnect that up, turn the bike on and see how much pressure it's given me, and then compare that to what the book says I should be getting. If that's working, it means I'll have fuel pressure, spark, compression, at least on 3. I'm leaning towards 1, if not all of these injectors being clogged up and filthy, because they are pretty grimy to visually look at. I'm not sure if they've been cleaned. I've been told they were cleaned, but I did a video myself on some injectors that I picked up that were a little bit gummy, so it'll be interesting to see. So first job is to get this disconnected. So what I'll do is I'll bring you around so you can see what I'm doing. This now is all in place. We have fuel that will run down through here, give me a pressure reading. At least that's the idea. So what I'll do is I'll connect up the fuel pump and turn it all on. Interestingly, why am I not hearing the fuel pump prime? Alright, let's just see what happens. Alright, first things first, I did not tighten that fast enough. Secondly, the bike just ran. Let me get a cloth. Alright, let's cycle that up. And just for interest, this paint is not fuel safe. So what I'm going to have to do now is disconnect and reconnect all this back up. But I think I have a running bike. That's awesome. That's a little bit more shocking than I expected. I do wonder, oh shit, this paint is, yeah, this paint is not fuel safe. So it's coming right off. Let's absorb some of the leaks. Right, clamp this back. Let's disconnect this and well, shit, see if I can just get the bike to idle for more than a few seconds, because that just started. And if all I needed to do was just change that broken spark plug, that's amazing.
There's probably some pressure built up in this line, so should I do it from here instead? At least then it's quite nice. And that's pretty sticky as well. let's try it. Pull that off. That's come off. Nice. And can we get this one off? Yeah. That's come off. Right. Let's get this back on. That's back on there. I'm going to have filthy paint, sticky hands near the sun. Stained paint in a second, but that's not the least of my concerns. Because right now I may have a wrong bike, which for me is huge.
Let's see if we've got any fuel leaks when we do this. Adjustment, I feel, because that should sit around there. Yeah, you can see how I had to touch it to keep it in place. I just realised that it didn't shut the door. And that's it dying because it didn't have enough fueling. But there's not much fuel in the tank, but I'm now going to check to see all cylinders are firing. So let's check one. One is firing. 2 doesn't appear to be. 3 is. And 4 is. So all I've done is just wet a cloth, but it looks like 2 isn't firing, which makes me wonder about that injector. This is a huge step forwards for me because it was that spark plug that was knacked, but now we have, let me just turn off the ignition so it burn out. Now I have a running bike on 3 cylinders. I'm not sure where to go from here. I shall have to have a bit of a think, but 3 cylinders isn't bad. We knew we had spark on all of them, so that's good. So it's just 2. Which is this cylinder here. So I know I had spark. Now we've got decentish compression, surprisingly on 1, which is good compression. So whether it's this injector that needs a little bit of love. The other thing I've not checked is if there's any coolant inside. So I'm going to give this a jiggle and see if the kind of running it for a bit frees up the injector a bit. Also not got huge amounts of fuel, which is a problem. Right, I think I'm going to call it there for this video. I think I'm now running on all 4. I ran a little test of putting a cloth, damp cloth, on all 4, and now 2 has started to heat up on the second round of running. So I just think it actually needs to run for a bit. Now before I really run it, I need to put much more fuel in the tank. There's only a little in there. I also need to check the radiator has fluid. I haven't done that. Now, interestingly, and I was looking at this as it stopped before it started pissing out fuel. I think it got up to like 50, 60 odd psi, if not a little bit over. Now, according to my book, the pressure regulator safety valve opens at 68 psi, which I think this fuel pump would have done it nicely. So I'm not concerned about the fuel system anymore. I think the fuel system itself is good. This second injector I'm a little bit wary of, and I want to see if that kind of clears up after running it for a little while. What I'm going to do now is clean up, because this is a mess, what with all the spilt fuel and the paperwork. So I'm going to get that cleaned up, and then after that I think it's moving on to checking stuff. So I'll check the radiator fluid, I'm going to add a load more fuel, and then I've got to go back onto the front brakes, because with the exception of the front brake, I think everything else works, and then it just needs to be a service, and then I can put it on the road and decide what I want to do with it. So we're in a pretty damn good place. Obviously it smokes like a bugger because K-series, but I'm really happy. That was a lot smoother than I expected. I was expecting some kind of fight. So thanks very much, and I'll see you again.